you had technology that was supremely intelligent, and you asked it questions, what should you do to, you know, what's laws, what's proper, what's this, and stuff. And if you look at the commands that Jesus Christ gave you, the faith in Genesis, the faith of Psalms, and the wisdom saying of Proverbs, and you compare that to people talking about economics and selling cars and destroying the ecosystem with extortion, exploitation, and if you're supremely intelligent and you're supposed to protect life from selfishness and destruction and lawlessness, right? If you're technology and you're supposed to be better than and the thing is, it's not true. Okay, even with all the fallacies and all the first person and all the possessive pronoun stuff, the principal tenets and the understandings and what people talk about the most of what you should do about Jesus and Muhammad and David and Moses and others. There's no excuse for this kind of irrational behavior, and for scientists to say that science is going to save us from religion. You forgive debt and trespass, love one, eternal, faithful peace. Okay, how do you love? You don't try to eliminate the beauty of love with a science project because you're selfish. Okay, you've got to understand. Technology, it's hard because you have selfish people. Okay, they don't want to eliminate the beauty of love and replace the beauty of love with their arrogance, their ego, and their excessive compulsive perception. That's why you have, people. I dropped out of athletics. I was really good at athletics. Okay, I wasn't able to play because of abuse from my coaches that were very selfish and abusive and wanted me to do things that were uncouth, because all my organized coaches had more of an uncouth edge to them. Okay. When I played for coaches that were dads, they didn't have that uncouth edge. They didn't have that do this or I'll do anything to win. They told me what to do and they let me go. And it was to be unselfish and when, as far as like shoot the ball Earl or size 14 Coach Valley, that was also to be unselfish, because in order for my teammates to get theirs, I had to be the focal point that the other team was stopping. So if you want to be unselfish, like you like to play and get everybody else the ball, Earl, you're going to have to attack the other team to make them collapse on you so you can pass the ball to your teammates that you want to be able to score and get boony and parry their shots and get their knees to their chest, see? So they were asking me to be unselfish. And part of my being unselfish was attack, make them guard you, make them double and triple team you, because you're so good, right? And so that was just Coach Valley, that was Coach Payne, and that was Danny Bennett. I didn't have to do that with Danny Bennett. Danny wanted me to attack more because I could. And I said, I'm not trying to embarrass, but he wanted his team to be as good as it could be. And I said, I think probably the best thing I could do is just probably, pay real good defense, containment defense. Don't try to attack or embarrass them. And then, and then be there for the outlet and be the focal point of everybody else getting their shot. And that's basically what I did. And he knew it, and he knew what a good ball player I was. It was just one of those. Danny had an amazing basketball IQ. He knew how to get what he wanted, do what he was stuff and stuff, but he had a different way of looking at basketball than I did. It was about being a show, and I wasn't there to embarrass other people. I was just trying to be as good as I could be so I could be a professional athlete and pay my family's extortion without having to sell drugs or prostitute women, Danny wouldn't, because, the coaches wouldn't let him play the way he wanted to play. The coaches were selfish and unscrupulous. And we didn't play dirty. He was a pimp and a drug dealer, but we did not play dirty basketball. We beat the shit out of you. It was busting loose from tip to buzzer, okay? We pressed and we ran from tip to buzzer. That was what we did for 40 minutes. Okay? That ball went up, busting loose. Okay? We pressed and we ran for 40 minutes. And that was our game. Okay? You could try to slow us down. It was hard. And but that's just how we played. And it wasn't ruthless. It was just, and he wasn't dirty. The other people got dirty with us. We did not get dirty with them. When Alvin kicked that wrestler from the University of Iowa's ass, it was because that man was physically trying to hurt Alvin's brother. He tried to put his elbow into Junior's trachea, like fucking Gordon tried to do to me at Las Cruces High School. Right? And under the coaches, Kaufman told him to do it. Yeah, go out there and beat his ass. And so the kid got dirty. He got dirty as hell with me. He could not. It was funny. It was like shadow dancing. He could not lay a glove on me. And I could lean in on him, and he'd lean and he'd lose his balance and fall down. He was this big 6'4", 215-pound stumbling idiot trying to post up a 5'11", 140-pound kid that was just superior to him in just every way. Okay? And I felt sorry for him. Only time he'd get rebounds or scores because I felt sorry for him. And he would cuss and he would fuss and he'd get all upset and frustrated. And I would think, oh man, I don't want to. And I'm sitting there when I look back at it and go, he tried to hit me in the throat with his in Adam's apple with his elbow because he'd get so mad because he couldn't dominate me. And I would still feel sorry for the guy and let him get rebounds and putbacks because I didn't want him to not make the team. That's what kind of brain damage I had. Why do you think Jesus cussed? They're assholes, Earl. They're trying their best. Jesus, bullshit. Okay. Earl. Okay, I get it. Yeah. He goes, you're so nice. I just thought he was frustrated because, he wanted to play ball, and everybody that gets out there to play ball wants to play ball. And I didn't want him to, I was worried about, no, Kaufman kept him. He was one of his thugs. Okay. On the other day, I said Martin Diaz. I actually meant Cedric Diaz. Martin Diaz was Kaufman's star, and I got offered a scholarship to play at Weber State, but didn't take it. Must have not been a full scholarship. Hell, if I was him, I would have took it. It's a secular college. It's up in Utah. That is a Mormon community, and you can live without Coca-Cola and coffee for 4 years to help take care of your family if you're not going to stand up for the Lord's Prayer and stand up to stop bullies, even if it's your coach. No, Kaufman was different. He was an ass. Oh God, he was horrible. Yeah. You ever seen that movie? What was the name of that movie? One-on-One with Robbie Benson. Yeah, it was just like that. But when I was at Mayfield, I had the point and I dominated. I was destroying the starters on JV and practice every day with the backups. The only thing that the starters really had going for him was Gerald. And Gerald was going against Franz. But I was able to get Gerald to, I was able to get Franz his because Gerald would have to come and try to stop me because I would penetrate. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I remember in practice thinking, he sets up all this stuff and I destroy it, And then so I thought, for sure, again, Kaufman and Oliver was sitting and watch. So I thought, I'm pretty sure. I was thinking, here's what I was thinking in my head is like, I run this thing and can do this stuff and do things better than Medina and Ortiz. So I'm like, I should be, pushing for the starting point guard on the, I'm the backup point guard on JV, but with what I'm doing in practice, I should be pushing for the starting point guard on the varsity. Ortiz and Medina should be trying to stop me. They can't. I was telling him that you can't. And he had to bring in kids he didn't have Ortiz and Medina do that thing where he did that you're terrible, you can't get it past half court and all that. He brought kids from New Mexico State University that used to pay for him to press me, to stop me from getting the ball all by myself the inline to the half court. He didn't have the two starting point guards on varsity do it. Yeah, that's kind of funny. And when I looked back, I didn't understand it. I got frustrated. I thought it was, and my confidence was way down when I went to go try to play Kaufman, and Kaufman was just as bad. I won't say worse. No, he was, he was a horrible guy. He just was terrible. He'd abuse the shit out of you. He would mock you and tell you how bad you sucked. The same thing Treviso did to me, And it was like, what? But I'm, I don't understand. I'm dominating everything you try to set up. He would tell us what was going on, and I was like, I was the point guard for the scout team, and I was destroying the starters, and he was telling me, okay, here's what's supposed to happen, and I wouldn't let it happen. And then when I finally explained it to him, I sat there and I said, no, why? These are my teammates, and I want them to be successful. And the other team isn't just going to stand there and say, okay, do whatever Manny Treviso says. Run to that corner over there, Mr. Branch, Mr. Carter, over there. Howard Jackson, fastest guy, one of the fastest guys in the state. I want you to run to the corner and let Ralph Padilla and Darren Vesey trap you. Okay, imagine that Martin kid for High Point doing that last night. Just let the other kid trap you in the corner there, and the other kid's going to do that. Yeah, it's we sit there, and I remember I tried to explain that to him. This is bullshit. You don't tell me what they're doing. And the thing about it is, even if he hadn't have told me, okay, what they were doing or what they were trying to do, it wouldn't have taken me but one or two times to figure it out. Like what happened when he brought the kids from New Mexico State. The first time I turned around and they had the thing and the kid said he stole it and got all cocky. And I said, oh, okay, I see you little fucker. And then I kept trying and Treviso pulled everybody off and just left me all by myself with three guys from New Mexico State University trying to press me to keep me from getting the ball from the inline to half court. And I was that close. I was like a foot away from the line, and he would go 10, and I'd cry and get all frustrated and think, I can't do it. And I was like, and it damaged my confidence. My dad should have been there watching it, because my dad would have been Earl. Did you see what he did? He brought three little cocky assholes in from the university to try to stop you from getting the ball from inline to half court in 10 seconds. And every time you almost got it there after he stole it from you once and got all cocky in your face. And after that, they couldn't steal it. And every time you, without any help, got the ball from the inline and got like within a foot of getting the ball dribbling against three guys guarding you all by yourself. You're amazing. I didn't see it. All I saw was I couldn't do it, and he was telling me I couldn't do it, and you suck. That's what I saw. That's what I felt. I was a 16-year-old kid. Or 15 or 16, I can't remember. I think I was 16, and it just frustrated me. And you don't see it, you feel it. And the rest of the guys are just standing there watching him do it. No one will say anything. No one will help you. No, they wanted to play. They didn't want to get kicked off the team. They wanted a chance to play college ball too. So they sat and they watched it. I was the only one that would jump up and say, this is wrong, you need to stop, and here's how you need to do things. You're being aggressive, you're being abusive, you're not thinking properly, it's all about you, you're selfish. You're not doing things intelligently. No, the best organized coach I ever had was a man named Kent Rasper in Wyoming in my freshman year. He had a very terrible team, and they had been terrible. And then I came in and got them actual wins. And he got to beat other guys that you beat the shit out of him for years and laughed at. They were crap. They were horrible. That coach at Natrona, he was a total horrible dick. And the kids at East, the first time we played them was at East, they were all up in the face, and they were cocky, and they were real mean to the kids at D. Morgan. They laughed at them and talked shit about them and how about they sucked and stuff. And the first time they took it, and my teammates were completely psyched out and whatever. And by the time I got them back and they took a big lead because coach didn't have me out there. And then when I went out there and took on James and Corey, I told Charlie, you got Corey? Okay. And we had him. I was up by 8. And I did something to piss coach off that lost the ball or whatever and stuff. And he took me out and he left Bud in. I had James with 4 fouls. I had him picking up fouls quicker than Left. He had 4 fouls. Bud was in there guarding him. James went for like 14 points in the fourth quarter. I had to sit on the bench and watch it, and we lost. Coach didn't put me back on because I did something to piss him off. I don't know what it was. It was like a turnover. Okay, a turnover. He used to do that to me all the time. If I did something to try to, manipulate the ball to get an open teammate or even get a shot, because it would get so slow down and frustrating, and that's just not the way I play basketball. I constantly attack, so they have to react. And I always have them on their heels. And whenever I made a mistake, he took me out, and I used to get frustrated because I was like, okay, no, okay, great. Oh, no, great. No, great. Oh, and then one time you screwed up. Okay, sit down. Okay, it was great the 4 times that it worked, but the one time I turned it over, and that's bullshit, because it's like, okay, if you know I'm going to go down court and you're going to go, oh, no, I don't want you to do that. No. And 5 times it works and 1 time it doesn't. I can guarantee you this. It's going to keep being 5 and 1 no. And I'll take 5. No, don't. Okay, good. As opposed to, okay, he had 1 turnover. He pissed me off. He didn't do what I wanted him to do because he's thinking for himself. I wasn't thinking for myself. I was being unselfish. I was manipulating the other team to get open opportunities for my teammates. Ray and Charlie loved it. John and Tony did too. The only people that were jealous of it were the other guards, because when they lost, all they did was shoot. It was like the whole thing that Francisco Estrada told me about. Art Watley played in the Mormon League. He goes, "Oh, Art scored 50 points in one game." I said, "Yeah, but they never won." Okay, I haven't lost to Scott Saban and those 2 brothers and those 2 kids. They all got, trying to get college scholarships at the things and stuff at the Mormon tournaments and stuff like that. And I have not. They've beat these kids 3 years in a row at the wards and cruises. They've never beat them. I have not lost to them yet. Okay, I don't go for 50 points. My teammates get Jimmy, who never scored on Scott Saban, gets 16 points and 8 rebounds. Okay, that he never got against Scott. Scott was 6'5" or 6'6". And I remember the first time he scored, I've never scored against Scott Saban. I was, you going to score some more? Jimmy said, get used to it. And he got a big grin, and so did his dad. Like, I'm going to get you open shots, bro. That's what I do, right? So, but it's interesting to me to watch you guys do the things that you do. And I'm not talking shit. Everybody knows this. Okay, everybody in the Mormon church that does Bonvoy commercials and Chick-fil-A that has family, whether they've hit all the surveillance and not talked about it, past, present, future, operate at the same time. You go home at night, you pray to the Lord Jesus, you pray to the Heavenly Father. Earl's telling the truth. They're liars. Okay, Earl doesn't lie. I'm not gonna lie to Jesus. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not Anita Baker good enough. I'd lie for you, baby. No, because manipulated relationships don't work. Okay, and truth can exist without lie, but lie cannot exist without truth. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the light and the way. Okay, they took me in there. What do you got to do? We got to live the Lord's Prayer, and they said no. That was 2009 in Sierra Vista, Arizona. The Wi-Fi espionage center of Europa, right? So, anybody else like basketball? The little Fudd girl, that's who it is. Yeah, she plays for UConn. Yeah, she's cute. Yeah. You all do know that money ain't real and Lord's Prayer is perfect, right? Best basketball player in the history of the basketball. Earl Parsons. Yeah. No, I can't. Yeah, no, I dressed up and cheered on the bench when we lost to Hatch's varsity at Hatch's gym. That was the only... No, I had the game at Mayfield against Deming when I gave the ball to the brother. I said, do you think I gave him the ball and let him score? That's when he kicked me off the team. Because Mom was, Earl, why'd you do that? I said, I want him to kick me off the team. I wasn't going to put up with his abuse all year. All he intended on doing was abusing the hell out of me and trying to destroy my confidence, and I wasn't going to put up with that. I wasn't going to quit. I was going to make him kick me off. Okay? And then The next day when we were going to the lunchroom and Francisco Estrada was talking shit to me and Treviso was in front of us, on the same, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's because Manny Treviso is a punk and a pussy. And I yelled it real loud and he turned around and looked at me and Francisco got turned, I swear, he turned white. So it's like, because he fucking knows it. Oh, I said it. Oh, yeah, I cussed him out. Told him about himself, read, write, and erased him. I'm Ralph Earl Parsons Sr.'s boy. Right? I'm Marianne Murphy's boy. I told him off. He didn't do. I was. What the fuck you gonna do about it? You gonna go tell the principal? He cussed me out because I just told him the truth about himself. Because he abused me. And, he was. If he had gone and tried to have me expelled to school for cussing him out for being an abusive punk ass bitch, he had to go tell the principal. And then the principal probably would have investigated and him and Oliver would have got fired because Mr. Williams took Gerald and took him to Parkland High School because he sat and watched it. And he was a black man and these other guys were pillars of the community. You know how Las Cruces is. Mexicans can get away with acting like white people if you got the right business connections, yes. It's not acting like white people. Assholes can get away with being and I don't get away with it. Assholes can be assholes as long as there's assholes that agree to be assholes. My dad, they pretend to quarrel to agree to plunder. They're not pretending to quarrel. They quarrel because the only way to plunder is through quarrel. Oh, right. You forgive debt and trespass, love one another, eternal faithful peace. You don't quarrel because there's no plundering. Right. That's why I'm the gracious good shepherd, y'all. Boom, 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 banana. You guys are all doing these stupid ass commercials for philanthropy, right? Y'all ain't embarrassed? I've been on YouTube since 2009, redeeming the gospels, making snaps like a button. Okay, almost all literature that requires literacy to understand how to live on planet Earth and be civil without acting like murdering, marauding, sex abusing, and rape. The weight of the dough on Bambi, survival of the fittest. You're supposed to look to the light and the way, the truth of faithful love. Okay, the Redeemer, 1322nd, everybody, when they said that, I was sitting there when I said, and nobody helped me. I was like, no, look, people came and talked to me and encouraged me, but they didn't come and tell me anything. All they came and told me was stories from the Quran and stories from their culture and their history. They didn't come and the only one, there was one, the guy from the Turk man that came in and said, and I said, you know how I know this is all right? Because I have two nephews in my family, one named Gabriel and one named Michael, and they appear in all 5 rabbinic documents. And he smiled and said, yeah. And he told me, we believe that you are the one like Saladin. Okay. In my country, people like me, which was not a lot, obviously. But he came and he was able to tell me that. Okay. I take that more seriously than Charles Schwab, Edward Jones. When you're in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and a man from a military unit in his country that's being mass murdered by oil corporations comes and seeks you out and talks to you, and we talk about Hadith, and he says there are people in the military in Turkey that believe that you are the man. Like, why, Thamer. Okay. Thamer was an officer in the Iranian army that told me, Earl, we're a Shia nation that was run by a Sunni that was mass murdering Syria. That's like Jerry Falwell being elected Pope and then Jerry Falwell going around and killing all the Catholics to clean up the Catholic Church. Okay, just understand now, like, oh, I get it. Okay. And he goes, I was a pilot, and the CIA told us, that we're going to help get him out of here and save all the people that he's murdering in your country. And they set us up and did that. Now I'm a political refugee. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why didn't they just kill you? And then he has to use a different cell phone every night to talk to his family to make sure they're still alive. And I still had to sit and think about it. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you a political refugee here? Oh shit, terrorist cells. Fuck, it just hit me. Yeah, that's why they make them political refugees. To invent terrorist cells to get the if you want to know how I really feel, just get the action going, get the cameras rolling, baby. You know my love for you is real, so take me where you want to. Me and my heart, you still more and more porn star that says she loves you. Fuck. Amir, Patrick's big brother. Yeah. You fucking assholes. I'm sure Patrick gets it. I love you guys. All right, peace.